And you are the one most important person that is responsible for a Great Barrington Declaration. Can you tell us about this detail? What was happening in that time?
Well, we were already 6 months into lockdowns when that declaration was written, and I had been in contact with one of the signers, and he proposed two other people, and we planned a meeting in which we would teach journalists. They would teach journalists about epidemics and about how viruses work and what public health was. And the assumption was that once they learned about it from these very high prestigious people, that they would write about it in a different way. The problem was that nobody showed up. So I had big high hopes for the meeting, and people were not interested in attending. Not anyone from the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times or any of the big places. And so as an alternative to that, they proposed that they write a declaration, essentially. And so I worked with other people and put it online and distributed it to the entire world. And for some reason, it got around the censors, which at that time were very active. And it seemed to indicate, that there was a lot of support for regular public health measures as opposed to these lockdowns and that sort of thing. And it began to break the back of the regime that was really a global regime. So that's why probably in Croatia it was already famous. In fact, I think we had it translated to many different languages. In fact, I'm certain we did. So because the response was a global response. And so the opposition had to be global also.
And these three colleagues of yours were professors from Harvard, Stanford, and Oxford.
That's correct. And all three were experts on pandemics and the trajectory of viruses and how they work with the human immune system. And they were experts in the history of public health too. And they knew for sure that population-wide panicking and quarantining people who were not sick served absolutely no purpose, and it was only going to harm people's health. And that was very obvious by October of 2020. And that's all the document really said, was we should go back to normal, and the people who are vulnerable to medically significant consequences from infection should shield themselves if they choose to, or if they want to take a risk, they can take that risk too. But mainly, what we need is freedom to solve this problem through medical science, and not through these draconian measures that were being pursued in almost every nation in the entire world. And what they said was not very unusual. It wasn't particularly radical. It was mostly what most people already agreed with, a year earlier. But for some reason, lockdowns came and everybody just lost their minds. And it did a great deal of damage. The reason it was so controversial, I think, is because, looking back at it now, is because many nations in the world, I'm not sure about Croatia, but certainly in the U.S. and Israel and in Germany and many other states, there was a new vaccine that was going to be released just 1 month later, in November, and it was based on a new platform called mRNA, and it was going to be delivered through a novel technology called lipid nanoparticles injected into the skin. And the hope of many of the people who had locked down the societies for the better part of 6 months was that they would get out of lockdowns by mass vaccinating the public, and that this vaccine would protect people from the virus, and that everybody in the world would be so grateful to them for giving them the cure to this terrible disease. That was the idea. But it wasn't working out that way, because many people already had been infected and already gained natural immunity, and many people were already suffering from the lockdowns and ready to take the risk of exposure, but they weren't allowed to by their governments. So many people looked at the Great Barrington Declaration as a danger to their plans for mass vaccination, and that if the Great Barrington Declaration prevailed, it would somehow injure the cause of the pharmaceutical companies that were planning to get really, really wealthy within a month. So that's why it was so controversial.
Yeah, that was danger for their profit. Well, this declaration was signed by more than 950,000 people, and lots of them are the experts in public health and also scientists.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, it was signed all over the world almost immediately, and we put out the website for the thing and invited signatures. Within about, I would say, about 36 hours after the thing was written, we were already headed out there, and already there were attempts to subvert the documents. So people were signing fake names. So we had to then include all sorts of identity checks, and we were working. We lost many nights of sleep in the first few days trying to fix the system, and we didn't expect the website to get millions and millions of hits, immediately. So there's no way we could have planned for that. But and then many public health authorities, particularly in the U.S., were demanding that the media come and attack us and plot against us and smear us and call us terrible names so that people wouldn't sign it. Became very controversial very, very quickly. And those are tough times. And meanwhile, most of the people who signed it got fired from their jobs. The signers themselves, the initial signers, got in great trouble with their universities. And Kulldorff is no longer at Harvard. Bhattacharya had wanted posters posted about him all over Stanford University. Now he's moved from Stanford. He's going to go to the NIH, National Institutes of Health, which is great. Sunetra faced all sorts of attacks from her colleagues and the British press. So these were very, very hard times, very difficult times for everyone.
How are you explaining this, especially when I'm talking about their colleagues? Because I can understand that it is danger for their profit, but for pharmaceutical companies. But what about colleagues? Why they were so afraid or they were attacking the colleagues?
Many scientists live off research grants from government. Many of them do. And they have to apply for these grants all the time, and it's a major source of their income. A lot of these people are not well paid, so they get a lot of money from their studies. And they know for sure that Anthony Fauci in National Institutes of Infectious and Allergy Diseases was in charge of whether or not they could get grant money. So they got very scared to disagree with what the government was pushing because they were afraid they were going to lose their income. So they joined with something that they knew was wrong, just so that they could keep their paychecks going. That's ultimately it. Because there was not ever any point to these lockdowns. They were completely foolish.